Now here's the story I really want to tell. It's a parable. So what did you expect from a rabbi? But it's not biblical. And perhaps it is Native American, but I'm not sure. I checked the internet and I couldn't find it. It's the tale of a tribal king and his 3 sons. The king whose wife had just died and whose health had been failing himself knew that his death too was imminent. His grief for the queen was compounded by the fact that his sons, aged 20, 18, and 16, would soon be alone without the support and counsel of either parent. He wanted to bless his sons before his death, as was customary, but he also felt the urgent need to give them the kind of advice that would last a lifetime. He decided to challenge them with a task from which he hoped they would learn an important lesson. Unlike most folk tales, however, the father in this story did not pit his sons against each other in order to determine which one would succeed him. Rather, his purpose was for them to gain some valuable knowledge and to grow from the experience. He told them to climb a nearby mountain and to bring back to him something from the highest level that they had reached. He did not tell them what route to take, how high to go, or what to look for, nor did he explain to them the reason for his request. He simply asked them to do it for him. It was not to be a race. It was not competition, but something they were to do on their own, choosing their own way and making their own decisions. The boys went off and agreed to meet after they had completed the task, and then together they would return to their father. They decided not to discuss things any further, and each went his own way. The mountain was steep. There were many ways to approach it. The ascent would be difficult, and the challenge considerable. The middle son went halfway up the mountain, and there he was attracted by a stone unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was circular in shape, and it was so shimmering in the sunlight. It was so bright that he was totally transfixed by it. Its color seemed to change as he looked at it from different angles. And when he held it close, it was almost clear enough to see through. He peered into it as if he was looking through a crystal ball. As he did, images of clouds and trees and animals took form within it. And he knew that he had found what he was looking for. It was magnificent, certainly rare, and most assuredly very precious. A gift fit for a king. He wrapped it in a cloth, placed it in his knapsack, and headed down the mountainside. The eldest son went further. He climbed more than 2/3 of the way up the mountain. And there he saw something beyond imagining. It was a flower, but not just a flower. It was the most glorious, most exquisite, most extraordinary flower he had ever seen. The colors were indescribable, vivid, vibrant, iridescent. Silken petals gracefully radiated out from its center. The stem beneath spiraled above the surrounding foliage, with its blossom raining majestically over the other wild flowers that grew around it. Its fragrance was so sweet that it awakened his senses to new awareness. The experience was magical, rare beauty worthy to share with his father. Carefully, he plucked it and ever so gently placed it in his basket. It took enormous dexterity for him to descend the mountain without injuring his prize, but he did it. The youngest son, only 16, but by virtue of great skill and daring, reached the very summit of the mountain. However, he had climbed beyond the timberline. It was completely barren. Beneath his feet, there was only solid, immutable rock. He found absolutely nothing to show for his effort. Sadly, he journeyed home empty-handed, feeling as if he had failed. As agreed, the three sons met and together returned to their father. The middle son told the king where he had climbed and presented him with this unusual stone. The eldest described his experience and displayed the unique flower that he had discovered. The youngest son stood crestfallen. "Father," he said, "I am sorry, but I have nothing for you. But from the heights, I caught sight of the sea. I caught sight of the sea." Now here is the message. The stone represents the material things in life. It is what we earn through the efforts of our labors. It is the wherewithal that accrues from hard work, possessions acquired, deserved, and most valuable when shared. Thanksgiving is a time of sharing. And I hope that everyone here will have an image in their minds on Thanksgiving Day, an image of Staten Island and Breezy Point, of the Rockaways and the Jersey Shore. You know, you don't find it on TV anymore. And the victims, think of the victims of Sandy and Thanksgiving, and how Thanksgiving will be for them, knowing that it'll be a long way to go before things get any better for them. And I do hope that we will all remember to continue to give. Albert Einstein, who was mostly known for his theory of relativity, said this: "It is our obligation to give in return as we have received and are still receiving." I think it's interesting that that great physicist had these words as well about remembering to give. The flower in the story symbolizes what exists for us at a higher level than mere physical wealth. It represents beauty and those elements of life of enduring worth. It is art and music. It is the wonder, awesomeness, and miracle of nature. It is what enriches our inner life, the spiritual and the sacred, which touch our very souls. Thanksgiving is a time to remind ourselves that we are a community bound together by our diversity and by the all-embracing nature of our religious traditions and faiths. We are grateful that we live in a land where we can work, raise our families, worship God in accordance with the dictates of our conscience, and preserve our own individuality. According to the story, however, there is something more in life beyond what we share and what we revere. It is catching sight of the sea. To catch sight of the sea means to hold in our minds a vision of the future. It is the challenge of reaching higher and higher. It is what the poet meant when he said, but a man's reach should exceed his grasp. Or what's a heaven for? Robert Browning. And so on this Thanksgiving, we pray that we, as Kiwanians and Rotarians, may reach beyond this moment and recognize our role as partners with a vision of hope, learning to share the pain of others. So many pains, so many losses, so many tragedies, so many disasters. Remember, reaching out, showing that we care. Also, ours is a vision of faith, determined to right the wrongs that have scarred our world. And ultimately, it is a vision of peace. In pursuit of God's blessing, that every person one day shall dwell under vine and fig tree, with none to make them afraid. May we each have a joyous and a happy Thanksgiving, and may God bless us, everyone. Thank you.